Good morning. It's just about 11 o'clock, so I'd like to welcome you all to our Veterans Day ceremony. And we're going to start out with Pastor Paul Atwater of the North River Community Church, who will give the invocation.
Well, good morning. Hope you'll join me in a prayer. Father God, we thank you for allowing us to live in this wonderful land that we share. We thank you for the freedoms that we have. We thank you for the amazing history that we have as a nation as well. Not perfect, but wonderful yet among all the nations of the world. We ask that you will pour out your blessing on those men and women who have served so well in protecting the freedoms that we have as a land and for caring for the welfare of our nation. And today, as we honor them, we ask that your Spirit would guide us as well and that you would be honoring them. We respect that you alone are the one who upholds ultimate justice and ultimate mercy. And at a time like this in our world, we need your wisdom. We need you to intervene in ways that only you can understand, to bring justice upon those who would destroy freedom and destroy the peace that we long for. We also need mercy for those who are caught in the middle of conflicts that are so great. Grant the leaders of our nation great wisdom. Grant the leaders of our military great wisdom. And we ask that your Spirit and your blessing and your understanding will fall on them all. In Jesus' name, amen.
We will now have our Pledge of Allegiance by J.T. Slarmy, Boy Scouts of America, Troop 105.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Next is the National Anthem by Francis Scott Key by the Pembroke High School Chamber Singers, directed by Gwyn Chapman. It's one of my favorite parts of the program.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose dark stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Proclamation will be read by Adam Cushing of the Boy Scouts of America, Troop 105.
A proclamation. Whereas, since the Commonwealth's earliest days, thousands of men and women have served their country in defense of freedom and liberty. And whereas on November 11th, 1918, after 4 years of conflict, the armistice was signed in the forest of Champagne by the Allied nations and Germany, ending World War I, the war to end all wars. And whereas, since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. And whereas, in November 2023, the world will commemorate the 105th anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And whereas there are approximately 300,000 veterans living in Massachusetts, and whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made to our country, and whereas we honor and salute those who served our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage, and whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who served their country, so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. And now, therefore, I, Mara T. Healy, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2023 to be Veterans Day.
Thank you, Adam. Gives me a great pleasure to introduce the Honorable John G. Brown, representing the Pembroke Select Board, who will also introduce his colleagues. John?
Thank you, Linda. First and foremost, I would like to introduce my colleagues, the Chair, Dan Trabucco, Vice Chair, Steve Ciciotti, the Clerk, Tracy Marino, and as you heard, my name is John G. Brown, Jr., Select Board member. Also, I'm a member of the Legion, the Sons of Legion, so I'm proud of my brethren is back over here. And also to let you know that I'm also the Veteran Agents Liaison. So before I start, I'd like to thank Dave McPhillips, our Veterans Agent, and his assistant, Mary Whitman, for everything they do for veterans here in our town of Pembroke. Now on with my speech. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today at this event to honor veterans here and across our nation. When I think Veterans Day, I think of many things. Those who are here today and the stories they have allowed me to hear. A couple of examples I want to share. One person who we all actually know, who's out there today, was drafted by the Army. But instead doing so and signing up with the Army, he signed up with the Navy. I need to say that the Army wasn't happy trying to find him. Another story I have was another person basically within town. He went to the recruiting station, and the recruiter told him that he would be in the Army. Now, I get a little offensive because my father was in the Army, so someone's got it in for the Army right now, I guess. But he told him, basically, the recruiter straight out to call his father. After the recruiter talked to the person's father, suddenly he was serving in the Coast Guard. And I see some Coast Guard folks there, Semper Paratus to you out there. Mostly when I think of Veterans Day, I think about my father. My father was 16 when he signed up to serve in the Army. My grandfather had to actually give my father permission to serve since he was underage. I had the privilege to hear many of my father's stories from boot camp and his time over in Korea. To see firsthand my father's work tirelessly for his fellow veterans when he was post commander back in my home state. I was happy, and anyone who knows these stories of what my father did during his service, I'm happy to share after the fact. The reason why I bring these examples up is that the stories allow those who did not serve to understand a bit who did serve and why. As I have said in the past, the story is usually better than the picture itself. So as we honor those who've served, remember to not just thank someone for their service, but let's make sure we interact with a veteran. Come on down to the Veterans Coffee Hour or breakfast at the Council on Aging, or a Legion meeting at the Bryanville Meeting House, or visit the Brockton VA, where you'll have a chance to visit and talk to a veteran who needs that interaction with the outside world. I implore the folks here today to please talk to a veteran and make sure their stories are not forgotten. I want to thank you again for allowing me to speak today. And before I back down, I will leave you with a quote from George Washington, which I hope will inspire you to always remember and honor the veterans now and in the future. The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any wars, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars on how they are treated and appreciated by their nation. Thank you.
Now the Pembroke High School Chamber Singers will do Stand for the Brave. And then we messed up a little bit here, didn't we? So they're going to stay up here, and we're going to slip in Mr. Chenard, and they'll sing their next song. That was just beautiful. Thank you. Our remarks today are by, our address today is by William Chenard, who is our town manager, and he also served in the United States Air Force.
Thank you, Linda. Tough act to follow. You're awesome. Awesome. So, welcome, and I want to thank everyone for coming today. It is a true honor to be able to speak to you. Thanks to many, many heroes, service members, families who have supported those service members. I want to take a minute before I move on to thank those who make today possible. Linda Osborne and the Town Memorial Committee, if you guys can just raise your hands so everyone knows who you are. Okay, thank you. I want to thank PAC TV. They have been a terrific corporate partner for the town of Pembroke. They're here today filming and broadcasting so that those who are unable to make it to this event can see the event live. So that's awesome. Again, thank you to all those who have served our country. I want to open today by acknowledging those veterans from the various branches of the service. So as I mention the name of the service, just raise your hand if you served in that branch. The U.S. Army, The Army is our oldest branch and our largest branch. They're mostly made up of ground forces with the supporting air assets. The Marine Corps. Wow, lots of Marine Corps folks out there. Thank you. The Marine Corps is actually a component of the U.S. Navy. It is unique in that it has both amphibious, ground, and air assets. The Marine Corps yesterday celebrated its 248th birthday. Happy birthday to the Marine Corps. So, the U.S. Navy, a few Navy folks. The Navy operates on, above, and below our waterways, the oceans and seas of the world. The Navy is, believe it or not, our most forward deployed service branch. They're out there close to where the action usually takes place and usually the first to respond to events that occur along the world. We also have Army and Air Force assets that are out close too, but not as close as the Navy. Space Force, I don't know if we'll have any Space Force folks, it's all brand new. President Trump started the Space Force. Space Force is organized to protect us in space. Space is going to be the future of military. And to provide information to those other branches about what's going on in space. So, Coast Guard, the Coast Guard is a few Coast Guard folks, thank you. They provide both maritime safety and wartime assets. During peacetime, they work with Homeland Security, and during wartime, they work with the U.S. Navy. And then the Air Force. I saved the Air Force for last because I'm an Air Force vet. I see the chief back there. And I have a special pride for the Air Force. The Air Force has a capability to respond anywhere in the world within hours. The Air Force can actually refuel their airplanes in the sky to be able to fly anywhere around the world on a continuous mission and not have to land to refuel. So I'm a huge sports fan. Those of you who know me well know that I've coached youth sports. A huge fan of youth sports and youth sports programs all the way up through professional sports. And so when I originally wrote this a few weeks ago, this is where I had planned to brag about how the Air Force Academy football team was 9-0 and had won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Well, last weekend it was a huge upset. Congratulations to Army, they beat the Air Force. So the Air Force is now 8-1. They still have a chance at the Commander-in-Chief's trophy because they hold it from last year. So if Navy can beat Army, which I don't know this year, but we'll see. The other thing I wanted to note real quick about sports is our Pembroke High School soccer team, for the second year in a row, has had a terrific season. And they actually have a game this afternoon at home right here at the high school in the quarterfinals of the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association playoffs. So if you have an opportunity to come out and support them. So let's talk about what the meaning of Veterans Day really is. Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day. It began as a day to remember those who had sacrificed during World War I. And why November 11th at 11? Well, November 11th at 11 in 1948 is when our enemies in World War I laid down their arms and there was a ceasefire. So there is significance to November 11th at 11 o'clock. In 1938, Congress officially started what was then called Armistice Day, and in 1954 that was changed to Veterans Day by Congress and now honors all veterans, not just those who sacrificed during World War I. And there's a key difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Memorial Day is to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Veterans Day is to honor all veterans. So this day gives us a precious opportunity to reflect on what it means to be a patriot, to reflect on what it means to be a country that is based on liberty, and to reflect on both the costs and the blessings of freedom. I remember a funny story when my daughter was 16 years old. She was asked to write a story, is freedom, basically a story titled, Is Freedom Really Free? She was a shy, not outward going at all young lady. And I said, she's not going to do this. And she said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I was like, oh no. She was a rebellious teenager. Didn't know where she was going with that, and I was very nervous because I knew that if she did well enough, she'd be asked to read on Veterans Day. Well, she did. I just want to note she did a remarkable job. She was very, very good, and she concluded that freedom is not free. It requires sacrifice. Sacrifice that she knew all too well, unfortunately. I was deployed a great deal during that time for military conflicts, operations, and war. However, there can be no doubt that America's fighting men and women have given so much to ensure that our nation stays free. We owe a debt of gratitude to all those who served, and especially to those who return home a different person, whether mentally, physically, or even without breath. Let's not forget those who never returned home and all the sacrifices that their families made to keep our front country free. We learn early in our military careers that teamwork and character are essential to the success of our country. I often remember those and often speak to those that were lifelong friends that I trained with during my early training days. I was a Yankee from the Northeast. There were others from all over the country, even an individual who was not from our country, believe it or not. People like Alexander from Mississippi and Jeff from Oklahoma and Sue from Los Angeles. We could not have been more different when we entered that training. We had different genders, different religious beliefs, different races, and different ethnic backgrounds. I remember a story where I was talking about pecan pie, and I got a real strange look from Alexander, who was from the South. And he looked at me and he said, "Bill, do you know what a pecan is?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I know what a pecan is. A pecan is a nut." Well, he said, "No." He said, "The nut is a pecan. A pecan is something we throw in the back of the truck that we use when we have to go." So I guess I learned something that day. And at the end of that training, we became friends. We were close. We remained friends throughout our lives with some of the family struggles that we've had, children and grandchildren. We all have children and grandchildren. Some of us have even lost some of our children. But I want to talk and expand on that a little bit and talk about a couple of examples of character and teamwork that are military-based. One of them most of you will have already heard of. The other maybe not. It's a little more subtle. So there's a book. It's written by Navy Captain Michael Abrashoff, and the book is called "It's Your Ship." In one paragraph, he devotes an entire paragraph to the story I'm going to tell you. One day, the captain was on a command ship with the admiral, and he saw a seaman that was working nearby, and he could see the admiral's face and the admiral's expression on how he was so frustrated with this seaman. And the young man he could also see that the young man was trying so hard to do a great job. So after the briefing, he went to the admiral and he said, "What's the story with this guy?" He said, "Oh, he's just not getting there." And so the captain said, "Transfer him to my ship. I see some character there. I see someone who wants to work hard." The admiral said, "Okay, fine, we'll transfer him." Well, that young man, that seaman that was struggling so hard that day, won several awards and became one of the best radar operators in the Navy. So I want to note that there's a subtitle to this book, and the subtitle is "The Best Stand Ship in the Navy." And it was the best stand ship in the Navy. It regularly won naval awards, regularly passed inspections at a high level. So that commander that day saw something in this individual, some character that no one else could see in this individual. And that commander also was able to command a ship that was the best ship in the Navy. So the other story I'm pretty sure many of you will have heard of. It's a story about Master Sergeant Rodney Edmonds. Rodney Edmonds had served in World War II. He was captured during the Battle of the Bulge, and most of his regiment was captured that day. He was imprisoned in a German prison camp, Stalag 9A, not that that's relevant, but One day, the commander of the German prison camp made an announcement that the next morning, only the Jewish members that were prisoners of war would report. So the next day came, and all 1,275 prisoners reported outside their barracks that day. And the German commander was incredibly angry when, after the master sergeant and master sergeants were all Jewish today, and never relented, and actually saved the lives of those Jewish individuals on that particular day. You may have heard this story because it's been focus of a news story on CNN, a news story on Fox News, a story in Newsweek, and it was part of President Trump's Veterans Day speech 6 years ago, I believe. So character and teamwork manifest themselves in many different ways. From the simple actions of Captain Abrashoff, who recognized that individual had some character and moved him and found a fit for him that made both him and that ship incredibly successful, to the heroic actions of Master Sergeant Edmonds. And I'll note that Master Sergeant Edmonds died with that story. And if it wasn't for individual who was there that day 20 years later, that story would never be known. So I'm not sure where the character comes from, not sure if it's the challenging training that our service members go through during basic training, or if it's there in those who simply volunteer for service. So my words today would be meaningless if I didn't recognize the families of those who served. That they've sacrificed so much for our country and rarely get the accolades they deserve. The mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, wives and husbands, daughters and sons, and friends and loved ones. When our service members deploy abroad, these loved ones try to carry on. They try to carry on in a normal way, and we all who have served know it's anything but normal. So today, as we honor our veterans, let's also remember our other heroes. Our nation's military forces simply could not be successful without them. It is critical that we support our families and loved ones and what they give to us every single day. My biggest thank you goes out to those families, those who served. Your sacrifice made it possible for those of us who served to serve. Our strength of a nation comes from loyal citizens like you. Those who are aware of the challenges and aware of the opportunities, aware of the dangers we face. As I note, I just want to take a personal opportunity here. There has been in our nation's time nearly 30 million veterans. There are currently just about 16 million still living today. We're losing about 200,000 a year. I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to ask you to ask all of our legislative leaders, both on the local level and the federal level, to help support homeless veterans. As we go to sleep tonight, it's estimated that 35,000 homeless veterans will go to bed, will sleep without a bed or a home. If we can find a place to house our migrants, we can certainly find a place to house our veterans who have loyally served our country. So I'm going to conclude today, follow up on something that Selectman Brown said, to ask all those who serve to share your experience with your family, friends, and loved ones. No one should doubt our military's strength and resolve. We must never forget the legacy and lessons of previous wars. Passing that experience on to our children and our grandchildren and their children will keep that memory alive. May God bless you and every one of our veterans and service members, past and present. May God bless this truly beautiful town and those who live here. And may God bless the United States of America, and may God help everyone understand that freedom is not free. Thank you.
Now we have the second part of the chamber singers doing the American Heroes. Now, when we do the salute to the armed forces, could we have you stand when you hear your song? We'd appreciate that.
Over hill, over dale, we will make the dusty trail, and the big songs go rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, now they're marching right about, and the big songs go rolling along. Then it's high, high, me in the field of Hillary. Shout out your numbers loud and strong. For wherever you go, you will always know that the big songs are rolling along. That the big songs are rolling along. The United States Marines. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines.
United States Navy.
Farewell to college boys, we sail at break of day, 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 day. To our last night on shore, drink to the full, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
The United States Coast Guard.
We sing on land or sea, through surf and storm and howling gale. I shall our purpose be. Sempre gratus is our guide, our theme of glory too. To fight, to save our rights and die, like a star we are for you.
The United States Air Force.
Here they come, soon to meet our thunder. Atta boys, give her the gun. Down we dive, starting our flames from under. Off on one terrible course. We live in vain, move down in vain. Ain't nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force. No, nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force.
America the Beautiful.
America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea, from sea to shining sea, to shining sea.
Wow, every year I have a tear in my eye. It's so great. Thank you. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to present our Veterans Day essays. A little history on that. We've been doing it for quite a few years, and we partnership with the with local Legion. And the winners from each school will be reading their essays today, and don't leave afterwards because you will be presented by a check from the Legion for $50, which you can put in your savings account or wherever. So we're starting out with Bryantville. We have Nicole Sullivan. Nicole? You can put that right there, it'll be best for you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole. Here's my essay. Celebrating Veterans Day is really important. Veterans Day is to honor all veterans from all branches of the military. The branches of the military are Air Force, Navy, Army, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. I come from a long line of veterans. I'm proud to know my grandfather, my great-grandfather, great-uncles, and cousins are all veterans. Veterans Day honors veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice. Veterans Day is always celebrated on November 11th. Veterans Day was first called Armistice Day to honor the veterans who helped end World War I. And World War I ended on November 11th, 1918, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. In 1954, President Eisenhower changed the name from Armistice Day to Veterans Day so it would include all veterans who served in their country, not just the veterans in World War I. We should celebrate Veterans Day because all veterans risked their lives to protect our freedom and our country. Veterans Day are the reason we are safe and able to make our own choices, such as what we do with our days, where to go, if we go to school or go shopping. We can show our gratitude towards veterans in many ways. Some of the ways are by saying thank you for your serving our country. We can make them cards with personal messages thanking them. We can spend time with them and let them share their stories with us. We also have parades. Veterans Day is important because it's a day to remember and acknowledge all the people who fought to keep us safe. Without our veterans, the world would not be the same as it is now. That is why Veterans Day is important to celebrate. Thank you to all the veterans here today. Thank you. I would like to say thank you.
Great. Good job.
Thank you.
You want to stay up by the piano? And when everybody's done, this going to do that. All right. Second, we have Mabel Hannafin from the Hobmark Elementary School. Mabel.
Veterans Day's impact on America. Loss, horror, grievance. All these things and more are what can come out of a military service. Right now, the thought of serving must be a troublesome one. But there are many brave heroes who, even with these thoughts in mind, were willing to pay the ultimate price for our country. We honor these veterans who may be physically able to celebrate and those who aren't so lucky. On November 11th, we celebrate our country and those who serve it. After their service is over, a veteran may have a hard time adjusting to civilian life. They could be injured from battle and cannot do things the same way as they could before. A soldier could be scarred with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. The way things are done in the military, like folding clothes or sleeping arrangements, are very different from that of a normal life. While adjusting to civilian life can be difficult for recent veterans returning home, it would be better to be out of a war zone than to be in one. But the veterans themselves aren't the only ones that suffer emotionally. Families of veterans are also largely affected by the return of their loved ones, and it can be hard for them to adjust to them being home again. Whether the veteran had a long service or a short one, the hero's family will be overcome with relief and a feeling of security by their loved one's return. So, while returning from deployment is a big weight lifted off of everyone's shoulders, it is also a big change to have to face. All the veterans in the world deserve to be celebrated, and that's where the traditions come into play. The traditions of Veterans Day can vary from family to family. there are a few that are largely celebrated throughout America. One of the most popular traditions is to hang an American flag at half-mast, as it symbolizes the remembrance of veterans who had passed away during wartime. Another popular tradition that my family celebrates is to listen to taps with hands over our hearts. These celebrations mean a lot to me, my family, and of course, my amazing country. So, all in all, there are things that make joining the military look like a grisly task, but the way it truly is casts a whole different story. Joining the armed forces is an amazing way to pay homage to the amazing country we call America.
Thank you. Good job. Can you stand up here? And last but not least, North Pembroke, Sydney Lane.
What Veterans Day means to me. Veterans Day is a day that we honor people that served our country in war. We honor those people dead or alive. This day is celebrated each day on November 11th. This day is celebrated on November 11th because World War I officially ended on the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month. Veterans Day became an official holiday May 13th, 1938. Veterans Day is an important day for the people in our country. It gives families a day to remember the ones they lost in the military and the ones who are working hard for our liberties. We admire their love for our country. We want to make sure that all veterans are noticed for their bravery and heroism. One of the reasons Veterans Day is important to my family is because many of my family members served in the military, including my grandfather and great uncle. Also, my great-grandfather fought in World War II. My great-grandmother had received a letter saying he had been lost at war. He was in a bomber plane crash. His plane was severely damaged. To my family's relief, on November 9th, 1943, my great-grandmother had received a second letter saying he had parachuted out of a plane to a neutral country and is healthy and well treated. My mom still has the letter framed with his picture today. We honor them each Veterans Day. We are lucky to live in a country with so many brave people willing to protect our freedom. The military makes sacrifices such as family separations and long, difficult hours with no extra pay. These people are willing to give up their lives so we can have a life of freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. I'm proud of these veterans who are your family and my family, who keep us safe every day. In conclusion, I'm very thankful that the United States respects the people in our military. It's very important for the family and loved ones of those soldiers lost in war to have a day to honor them with reverence. On Veterans Day, we all celebrate our freedom thanks to our heroic military.
Thank you. Thank you, Sydney. So every year we have, in partnership with the Legion, who supplies the actual checks for this Veterans Day essay winner. So I have the checks, and I'm going to hand them out right now. We love that program. It's really great to have the kids involved. And as you might notice if you've been here other years, we're trying every year to get more of the children involved. So this year, we, other than Reverend Pastor Atwater and myself and the selectmen, we were pretty much able to get the kids all involved. So now we will have God Bless America by the Chamber Singers under Gwen Chapman's direction. Pastor Atwater from the North River Community Church, would you lead us in a benediction, please?
So benediction is a fancy Latin word that just means to end with a good word. So let me do that. Father God, send us out knowing that we've remembered, we've given honor where honor is called for, we've given respect where respect is called for. Now we ask that you would honor our nation and the people of it. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Go in peace.
So I just have a couple of things to say before we go. We'd like you to stay, go into the cafeteria for refreshments. The Girl Scouts are in there helping us with coffee and donuts this year, and we thank them very much. We also have our veterans agent, Dave McPhillips, is here. He's going to be in there for any of you veterans who have questions on anything from A to Z, claims, abatements, anything. He has all the forms here. He's ready to go. So take advantage of that, and we'll save you a trip to Town Hall. I want to thank my committee. Some of them are here today. Kathleen Keegan, her husband Sean is not here today. Jim Bailey is not here today, and Andy Pongrantz and Elaine Crudup is away. Dave McPhillips, and myself. I don't know if I forgot anyone. Did I forget anybody else? And I think that's it. Without the committee and without the help of Town Hall, especially Mary Whitman in the Veterans Office, we would not be able to get this program done. So did I forget anything? I think we're all set.
Well, no, we have one more thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
And also, I'd like to have a good round of applause for Linda Osborne for emceeing us tonight. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I wouldn't do this if I didn't really believe in the cause. I actually got roped into this committee many, many years ago by Mr. Everett Reed, who some of you might remember. And it's like, okay, and whatever Everett said, you did. So I don't know if any of you remember Everett, but I'm so glad I came aboard. It's great. It's the best, let's say it's the best committee in town, and we usually don't fight or any of that kind of stuff. We get along pretty well. I'm sorry, I'm not meaning that, but you know what I mean. I am a mother of a veteran, United States Air Force. I have my son's sweatshirt on today. He was stationed most of the time at Andrews Air Force Base outside of Washington, D.C. He served during Desert Storm, and I'm very proud of him. He was a senior airman. So I always try to get him to come here, but it's hard for him to come down with the kids and everything. So please join us for coffee and donuts, and yeah, they'll be good, I'm sure. We hope that you will come to our Memorial Day ceremony in May, and also that we'll see you here next year. Thanks.